Jackie, and I am so excited to show you my projects this month using Thoughtful Branches. Actually, the bundle, the stamp set along with the Thinlits. You know, this has been so much fun. I seriously wake up in the middle of the night with more ideas in my head because the stamp set is so versatile. It was hard for me to pick just 4 projects for you guys to do. So I hope you make these 4, but that you go on and make many more using a lot of the ideas I've shared with you or ones of your own. So this video will give you some quick tips for putting the projects together this month. Try to make it as easy as I can for you guys, and hopefully you'll learn some things that'll carry over with your other stamping as well. So let's take a look at card number 1. Now you will notice it's a square card. It is actually 4 1/4 square. So normally, you know, we cut our cardstock 8 1/2 by 5 1/2. This one is actually 8 1/2 by 4 1/4 to give us that square. I love square cards, but if you make bigger square ones, you have to have special envelopes and it requires extra postage. If you do this size, you can still put this into a regular envelope and mail it with no additional postage. So I like this size. So let's talk about this card. There's a lot going on here that I want to show you that'll carry over to the other cards as well. So why don't we just start with the apples, because that's kind of how I lined things up. I don't know if you can see in the video, but my apples have a brown stem. Now this is one stamp, and what I do, and it's super simple, you can do this with the bird and the beak on the bird as well. I just ink up my apple in my real red, and then I take a brown or a black marker, whatever color, or you could do green, whatever. I don't even worry about taking that red off because this is darker. So I can take this and just color a little bit on that stem of that apple and then go ahead and stamp it. And you'll see how easy it is to get the multicolor on there. And then those are just ready to cut out with your Thinlits. So back to our card, you'll see we have 3 of those. Now let's talk about the banner. You guys know I use tons of banners. We do it all the time. You can easily cut it with the scissors. I love the triple banner punch. If you don't have this yet, put it on your wish list. It is worth every penny. Now, for this one, our cardstock is actually 3 1/4 inch wide. This punch is actually designed, you can see all the little grooves here, between here and then up here and higher for different sizes. The smallest one really is for 1 inch, but it's super easy to do something smaller. Kind of have a glare there. I want to try to show this the best you can. What I do when I put this in here, and actually there's these little grooves down here that helped for a guide, but what you want to do is eyeball it so that it is kind of hard to do up in the air here, kind of even between the 2 spaces there, and then your banner ends will be pretty even. And if they're not exactly symmetrical, who cares? So put it in there and then punch, and then I'm going to just flip it. This piece happens to be 5 1/2 inches long, which is kind of long for this banner, but we're going to fold this one just to add a little dimension and get this to pop up a little bit. So after I've punched it, nothing's measured or scored here. I just fold on the one side, fold it under, and then just fold it back like so. Do the same thing over here, just at the edge of those words, and then fold it back this way. And there you go. And that was not real even, but that's okay. I tied the linen thread around the edge here. You can see it into a bow. And then when you adhere this down, you just want to put adhesive on this part. So it will lay flat, but when it's out of the envelope and that, it does kind of poof up a little bit, pop up a little bit. So that's the apples, that's the banners. Now let's talk about the treetop. And this is you're going to use this a lot, whether you're making flowers or trees. Here I've stamped it already in garden green. Now remember, with photopolymer stamps, it is best to stamp on the piercing mat. It's going to give you a much nicer image. So we're all stamped there already. You'll notice with these photopolymer, and you can see how stained mine are, but it does have this tab up at this end, and then our Thinlit has that tab also, so you know when you go to line this up that that's the top. I mean, to me, this one's pretty obvious, but sometimes like with flowers and that's really important. So let's talk Big Shot a second, because there were new products this year and I'm still getting lots of questions. So first off, we have the new Big Shot platform. Why do you need that if you already have the multi-purpose platform? Well, you really don't, but I think you do, because this is going to give you much better cutting and also much better embossing with the embossing folders. It is designed, and you cannot see it, but it's actually raised a little bit in the center, because sometimes with Big Shots, in the middle here, it doesn't cut as good, or your embossing isn't even. This will just give you even cutting, even embossing all the way through. It is definitely worth the investment for those of you that have had a Big Shot for a long time. It also comes, you notice it doesn't have those pieces that flip up like our old one did, but it does come with what's called a thin die adapter. You're going to add that and use that anytime you're cutting with thin dies. Thinlits, framelits are considered thin dies. Then this is our precision base plate. Highly recommended. It's almost absolutely necessary. I shouldn't say that, because I think you can put a lot of shims and you can make other ones work. But anytime you're using a detailed die, and this one's pretty detailed, you're going to want to cut with this, not on this side, flip it over so you see the metal side there, and you use this instead of what we're used to putting a plastic plate. You know, we always had plastic top and bottom. Now that's our bottom one. And then we're going to put our cardstock. We're going to line up our Thinlit on there. Find out where those branches are supposed to be, and once you get it where you want it, then you go ahead and you put plastic up on the top. There's our sandwich. We're ready to run it through the Big Shot. Okay, once we've run it through, we can take it apart, and you'll see we've cut through there, and it comes out pretty simple. You know, if you remember with other dies, a lot of times they weren't cutting really good, and it truly is a combination of this new platform and then the precision plate. Then there's one more Big Shot item that I really highly recommend. To me, it's a must-have, but it's our little brush, and it comes with this little spongy foam base. And what you do to get, remember before we were always trying to poke and pry and get dies out of there. With this, I put it on here and I run my brush. Sorry about the shakiness. My table's not real solid, but I brush it, brush it, brush it, brush it. And then you'll see how easy, you can see all the pieces there. This just almost falls out. Once in a while, it looks like I have just a couple little ones that I might have to poke out, but that's it. That's how easy it makes using these detailed dies. So if you like using dies, especially detailed ones, you will love that. Okay, back to the card. We talked about a lot of things here. We talked about the apples, the banners, now how to stamp and cut this out. So to finish off the card, just stamp your trunk. And I did stamp, you can see here, the leaves underneath. And then I did this one and I put it on top. I popped it up with dimensionals. Now you might be looking at this thinking, how in the world am I going to put dimensionals under that? Well, I'll tell you, look at my sheet of dimensionals. I cut the heck out of these. And especially along the edge here, all these little pieces, I take a little scissors and I make lots of little cuts to get little ones. And there's plenty of room. I usually put, I don't know, 5 or 6 little ones around there, and that holds that up really nice. So there's card number 1. Okay, card number 2, stamp and cut out with the framelit or thinlit the trunk of the tree and the birds. We got 2 birds, and you'll notice the birds have a little bit of black on the beak. Did that the same way I did the apples. Now for these trees in the background, because we want them to be pretty light, this is our focal point here. What you're going to do is use this leaf one, or not leaf one, but this tree stamp that has 3 on it, ink it up, and then stamp it on scrap paper. I think I even stamped it twice, and then I stamped it on here. Photopolymer likes to stick. Oop, and I got a little boo-boo on there, but that's okay. Gives you the idea. But you can see how much lighter that is from my first ones. And so I just stamped it a couple of times on there. And then for the tops of the tree, we're going to do the same thing. Garden green, stamp it off, and then I stamp it on my trees. Stamp it off, and I probably even stamped all 3 trees at one time to get a few different shades in there. So that's how you make your trees in the background. Add a little grass. The rest of this is pretty self-explanatory. So there's card number 2. Okay, moving along with card number 3, I used the tree embossing folder on here. You can really use whichever one you want, but I thought that kind of went really nice. And banner, we've already talked about with this one. Your banner's a little bit longer, but what you're gonna wanna do is punch this left side first, or cut it if you're using a scissors, and then stamp your words so you can get them as close to this end as possible, and then just go ahead and trim this side when you're done. I have a hard time gauging where to stamp and punch and to get it all to come out right. So I was stamp or punch first and then stamp, and you can get those words right over there really nice. Now for the trees, you'll see a lot of different dimension in the leaves of the tree. All I did was we stamped our trunk first, and we're using Cajun Craze. You could use, you know, a red or a yellow or whatever color you want to make your trees, but ink your stamp up. And then when you stamp this, we'll do the middle one here. I'm going to stamp, move it a little bit, stamp, move it a little bit. And I stamped, gosh, a whole bunch of times. And that's how we get all that color. Stamp, stamp, stamp. And each time just move it a little bit. And look at the dimension I got on there. So there's the trees. And the rest of it, I think, self-explanatory. Put your baker's twine around, dimensionals under our Cajun Craze layer there, and we're good to go. So one more card. And here's the 4th card. This one's got a lot of fun stuff going on because this is actually inlaid in there. Simple card, but I want to kind of walk you through so that you understand what's going on. I've done this part with the Big Shot already because it's the same sandwiches we used earlier for that tree. But on your white layer, what you want to do is put the die on here and cut out your branch, because this will be layered over the top here. But before we do that, what you want to do is take, this time it's not tree top, it's the flower top, and I'm going to stamp it. Okay, you want to cut that out first so you know where to place this, and we're going to just go ahead and stamp it on there. Now let it run off the sides, that's okay. Then you will adhere this layer down to the garden green like so. And I've cut another one. You have a scrap of Pear Pizzazz to cut out another flower stem and leaves with it. And this will actually go, you put adhesive on the stem part, and it will go right in the little grooves where you cut out of the white, and glue it down on there. But don't glue the leaf parts, you know, maybe just the base, because you want them to flip up a little bit. Mine's getting a little flat here. And then, actually, I think I stamped that one in Melon Mambo and Watermelon Wonder is the card I used on the sample and told you guys to use. So really, any color could go with it. But then we stamped on there, but then I stamped it again, just like I did with my treetop, on a scrap and cut it out and used dimensionals. So you'll see, you know, we're stamped underneath, but then we're stamped on top. So it puts some dimension. Added the little bow on here, just tied it and used a glue dot to stick it down. Add your words on there, and we're done. I think, nope, I didn't do anything on the inside of that. So that's card number 4. So those are the 4 cards you get to make with your card kit for Thoughtful Branches. I hope you love them. And like I said, I'm giving you tons other ideas with project sheets, all the instructions, all the measurements. So I hope you make a lot more cards with it. If you have any questions at all, make sure to get a hold of me. I am here to help you with all your stamping needs. But again, thank you so much for being a customer of mine or a demonstrator. I just love to share Stampin' Up! And I love the Thoughtful Branches bundle. So have a great time with it. Thanks.